Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something, well, a little surprising, but it's an incredibly innovative solution that's actually happening right now in the United States. We're going to be talking about turning toilet waste into valuable fertilizer. So let's just get right to it, shall we? This entire concept really boils down to one massive, almost unbelievable question. Can we really do this? Can we take the stuff we flush down the toilet every day and somehow transform it into something that helps grow our food and makes our cities greener? It might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the real answer is way more interesting than just a simple yes or no. Okay, so here's the absolute crucial point you need to understand. Scientifically, yes, it is absolutely possible. But the dream of creating perfect factory-grade urea granules, the kind they make in a giant chemical plant, that's not what this is about. That route just isn't practical.
The potential, at least in theory, is just staggering. With a population of around 335 million people, the U.S. could, theoretically, produce about 3 million tons of urea from urine every single year. That is a massive amount. But, and yeah, this is a really big but, there are some major hurdles that make trying to get that pure urea a total non-starter.
It really comes down to three main roadblocks. First off, urine is mostly water, right? So the good stuff, the urea, is super diluted. Second, that urea is incredibly unstable. It starts breaking down into ammonia almost immediately. And third, the real kicker, trying to purify that diluted, unstable mess into perfect little granules, the cost would be astronomical. You could never compete with the industrial process.
So, if making pure urea is basically a myth, let's pivot and talk about the realistic solution, the one that's actually out there working today. The really smart way to do this isn't about trying to perfectly recreate a chemical. No, it's about something called nutrient recovery. It's about capturing the valuable nutrients that are already there. We're talking about the nitrogen and phosphorus that plants absolutely love. And the star of this whole show, the key player, is a substance called struvite. Now, what it is a mineral crystal. It forms when you add magnesium to the urine, and it basically traps all those key nutrients into a solid, stable form. And what you get is a fantastic slow-release fertilizer. This stuff is the foundation for the best business models out there.
And listen, this is not just some idea in a lab. It's really happening in three main ways across the US right now. You've got pilot projects in eco-friendly buildings and on college campuses, and it goes all the way up to full-scale systems being integrated into entire city wastewater treatment plants. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this transformation actually happen? How do we get from a simple toilet flush to a bag of valuable fertilizer granules? The whole thing, and I mean the entire process, lives or dies on this one critical first step. You can't just use regular old mixed sewage. The magic can only happen if you collect a pure stream of urine using special urine-diverting toilets right at the source. This part is completely non-negotiable. Okay, so once you have that separated urine, there are basically two paths you can take. The first one, the simplest one, is to create a liquid nitrogen fertilizer. You basically just evaporate some of the water to make it more concentrated, you adjust the pH to make it stable, and then you package it up. It's perfect for things like golf courses, parks, and general landscaping. Now for the second option. This is the more commercially powerful one, creating those struvite granules we talked about. This is a bit more involved. You add a magnesium salt, which kicks off a chemical reaction that makes the struvite crystals form. Then you separate out those solid crystals, you dry them, and boom, you have a stable, solid fertilizer that's super easy to handle and transport. Of course, there's a step here that is absolutely non-negotiable in the United States, and that is safety and regulation. This isn't the Wild West. Before a single ounce of this stuff can be sold, it has to go through rigorous lab testing for pathogens, heavy metals, you name it. It has to get the stamp of approval under EPA guidelines. Safety and compliance are everything. Okay, but how does this fascinating science actually translate into a real business that can make money? Let's take a look at the actual numbers. Well, if you're looking at a small pilot project, the startup costs are pretty significant. You're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $160,000 to $180,000 to get off the ground. And as you can see, the really specialized equipment, like those toilets and the struvite reactor, that's where the bulk of the money goes. And what you realize almost immediately is that success in this business is all about one thing: scale. Trying to do this at a household level? Not gonna work. Even for a small private startup, it is really, really difficult. The real money, the real profitability, only kicks in when you get to larger university or citywide pilot programs, and especially with big municipal contracts. And the difference is just night and day. The potential for profit just skyrockets when you go from trying to do it on your own as a small startup to landing a contract with an entire city. In this game, scale isn't just important, it's pretty much everything. So the smartest way to build a business around this in the US comes down to a few key strategies. First, you have to brand it cleverly. Call it nutrient recovery or water protection, not pea fertilizer. Second, you have to partner up with cities, big university campuses, and green developers who actually need the solution. And third, and this is brilliant, you create two ways to make money. You sell the actual fertilizer product, and you sell a pollution reduction service back to the city. So let's just zoom out for a second and talk about the big picture. What's the final verdict, and why does this whole nutrient recovery thing really truly matter? Well, the takeaway is pretty clear. While that initial dream of making pure urea from our toilets isn't really economical, the more realistic models, recovering nutrients as struvite or as a liquid nitrogen fertilizer, those are absolutely viable. They've been proven to work. And, this isn't just some quirky niche idea anymore. It's really a solution whose time has come. Its future is being propelled forward by some really powerful forces. Things like stricter climate laws, new limits on water pollution, and, of course, the huge and growing demand for more sustainable ways to do agriculture. Which really leaves us with a fascinating final thought to chew on. Is it possible that one of the biggest keys to a greener, more sustainable future for farming isn't out in the countryside at all, but is actually hiding in plain sight, flowing right underneath our feet in our cities every single day?